Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. A very warm welcome to Meet Menaca to celebrate you. Today, it is our episode 77. It's about building relationships with Professor Dr. Simmy Kataria. She's a speaker, senior global knowledge ambassador, mentor, teacher, neurogenetic expert, behavior scientist with over 30 years of global experience and an Ivy education. So a very warm welcome to you, Dr. Simmy Kataria.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
I
really appreciate the opportunity, and I hope I could really provide value during this next 2 hours for the show.
Thank you. Before I dive deep into what we are going to talk about, I just wanted to share something about the show itself. So Meet Menaca features experts in various fields and also real people sharing real stories to create a positive change. It is a vibrant 90 minutes multicultural online talk show to celebrate each and every one of you. It is a free event. You can join by registering, or you can later watch us on YouTube. The channel is Meet Menaca. Also, please be part of the Change Maker tribe and support us to grow and make the impact we want across the globe by subscribing to our channel. Why should we talk about building relationships? Firstly, an early happy Valentine's to all of you. Tomorrow, it is Valentine's Day, and February is known as the month of love. As humans, for all of us, it is natural to connect. The last week, Dr. Kalpana, the speaker, beautifully put it as we are social beings. So we want to connect with others. But beyond connecting, we also have the capacity to form and maintain relationships, which is also essential to functionality of us, but also for our mental well-being. And a lot of psychiatrists on the platform, and I'm sure they will agree. It is a key component even in professional settings. So to learn more and ask questions, let us listen to Dr. Simmy Kataria today. She has years of experience and also corporate experience. I'm sure it will add invaluable insight in how we can build relationships successfully. And hopefully that will lead to all of us making a change, how we can communicate and change how we interact with people, how we build relationships in a personal and professional setting, and also how we can influence other people to do the same. Without further ado, let's dive deep into this.
Thank you. Thank you, Menaca. Why are relationships important? We know that good relationships are so important to our happiness because from a neurogenetic point of view, we have chemicals in our brain which release dopamine when we have a touch or a sense of belonging with people. The vital benefits. So basically, when we are, in a good relationship or in a close proximity relationship, we have these feel-good factors which make us feel a sense of belonging, a sense of worth, a sense of achievement. So research shows that good relationships help people live longer, deal with stress, have healthier habits, and have stronger resistance to health problems. In 2010, a review of 148 studies, researchers found that social relationships improve lifespans. So it's a health benefit also. People in healthy long-term relationships are 50% less likely to die prematurely. The people without them, versus people without them, in terms of life expectancy, living without these relationships is unhealthy as smoking. Humans are social beings, and the quality of relationships affect our mental, emotional, and physical health. So what happens without good relationships? Without good relationships, a healthy connection, the result is simply quieter, duller life. The outcome is much worse than that. When these needs are not met, we don't function as we are meant to at our optimum. We break, we fall apart, we grow numb, we ache, we hurt others, we get sick. There's certainly other causes of illness, numbness, and hurt, but the absence of love and sense of belonging will always lead to suffering. So basically, as a behaviorist, I know that the five basic needs, sense of belonging is a very important need as a human being. The five needs being, the basic needs of love, intimacy, food, shelter, and sense of belonging is one of the most important one, because that's, if you belong, you perform. So that's what I wanted to say very quickly about the importance.
Thank you so much, Simmy. That's really important, as you reiterated. You told me why it is important. So how it is important even in a professional setting, because when we talk about relationships, usually our mind goes into personal relationships. Of course, it is important. And I am one to always advocate, unless until you have personal happiness, you cannot have professional success, or definitely you can sustain it. However, it is also important to maintain those relationships on both aspects. So what is your take on it?
Well, on a professional level, we are always coexisting as people. We're working together. There is team spirit. There is the subordinate, boss relationship. There are so many dynamics in the work field that, to have a congenial environment creates more productivity, creates more achievement, success, creates a sense of, being in a and belonging to a profession, to organization. So ultimately, as personal relationships, as they make us prosper, even professional relationships make us prosper and make us grow as individuals, which is the basic need of an individual.
Post-pandemic, particularly, most of our relationships, personally and professionally, other than very close relationships and immediate relationships, are built in the virtual world. So is there a different focus point when it comes to the virtual world, Simmy?
Yes, of course. I mean, we've been living in the pandemic for over 2.5 years now. So we've learned to have relationships like we have never met, both of us. And here we are, tying up a new relationship and, bonding online. So that's what we have been pushed to work remotely. And what really happens and what does it make to really make it happen on the online world is really, what you're talking, because there's no touch and feel, like we do when we were pre-pandemic. There's no touch and feel. Here we are really talking to people and touching them across miles, across. The positivity is that we are connected, and we are, the globe has become the world has become smaller and smaller, and we are touching people from all over the world, and that's the benefit. And what makes it different online versus offline is that we have to really provide value more, because we do not have the time to sit there and trust build and have those relationships, those barometers where it really makes a person click face to face. But however, in this realm, we really have to try harder to be relevant, to be to the point, and really make an impact quicker than before. So that's the basic difference on the remote versus live.
Thank you. So it's more of giving, more of the mentality and mindset to when you go into these virtual places to be ready to give value rather than receiving it. Am I correct? What you're saying?
Absolutely. Yeah. We have to add value and stronger now and than before the virtual world.
Yeah. And I think that's the only way you stand out, and that's the only way people remember you. And I think, build, as many people would agree, relationships are not built overnight, isn't it? It is, you start to somewhere, and then you get to know them. you like them, and then I think liking them happens, and then you trust them. So you have to have that time and patience to build relationships, and I think that is something people have to be very aware in the modern world. I feel.
Correct. I agree with you. And we need a quicker. We need to cut those stages and make it important from the get-go, fundamentally.
Sure. Yes. Thank you so much, Simmy. Going from there, what kind of role does one's mindset play in building relationships?
I think I touched upon it a little bit when I started. Our mind, our brain fundamentally is always seeking the feel-good factor, because that makes us, because human beings want to feel good always, and they're aspiring to perform or outperform and grow. But the basic ingredient is they cannot be gloomy to do that. They have to have that sense of touch, the sense of social belonging, sense of being. And so basically, what did I say? Why is the mind so important? Because it's thought, word, deed. If you're not connected to a human being, you feel isolated. So your mind has different kind of triggers. The brain has different kind of neurotriggers going on in their brain. But when you have a relationship, as I said, it's going to release dopamine, and dopamine makes us perform more. And we're always pleasure-seeking individuals. So that's why the mind has to have the brain, when I mean the brain has to have those chemicals releases in order to really, really, really be connected to individuals, because we are social animals, so to speak. We are social beings.
Yes, I mean, I couldn't agree more. It's really true what you're saying. And also, I think there's another aspect, isn't it? Each of us want to be seen, want to be heard, want to be appreciated. That is also really important, that we have to feel that we are visible, we are heard. And even in social setting, last week we met someone, and this was the center of the conversation, that how people don't often feel seen or heard, and it really breaks relationships. I heard this in Oprah show once. Oprah mentioned this, and she said, regardless, she has, of course, as many people know, that she has, tens of thousands of people she has interviewed so far. And she said, from presidents to celebrities to authors to change makers, every single person asked that one question at the end: how did I do? How did I come across? So all that they want is to know that they have been heard, they have been seen, they have been understood. And I think that is also really important important to keep in your mind when you go into these virtual meetings, particularly, but even in the normal relationships. What is your take on it, Sim?
To be very candid with you, and as I've been saying before in the previous ones, is that, yes, we want to be heard, we want to be noticed, we want to be recognized, and, we want to be, and relationships make us, because what is a relationship? It's how you relate to each other. How do you correlate? It's basically the importance of being heard, being recognized happens with another person. You can talk to yourself as much as you want to, and you can keep doing that till the cows come home. But if there's nobody to really hear you, you're going to get bored of that. You're going to be talking to the walls. You're going to get bored of it. You're going to feel lonely, and you're going to feel, and a lot of causes of depression and lots of illnesses across the world are because of the fact that people are not heard and people are left isolated. And especially in the Western countries, actually throughout the world right now, because everything is changing. Even if you talk about the Indian society or the Western society or the Eastern society, relationships are breaking down. Social relationships are breaking down, and that is the biggest cause of the real calamity of the 21st century. From the illnesses that are coming up, from disparities in societies, from various other sort of obstacles and barriers to real progress and real sense of achievement. So yes, recognition and sense of belonging and being heard and being noticed, and all those factors make and break us to become better human beings or not, such as.
Thank you so much, Simmy. I think it is for us to understand to do that to others first, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Before us waiting for others to do that for us.
Correct. And that's a very smart, observation is do onto others what you want others to do onto you. So you've got to, as a person, if you want, you've got to be proactive always.
Thank you so much, Simmy. That's really, I think, important aspect of relationships, really.
Yes.
As an expert in this field, do you have a recipe for successful relationships then?
See, fundamentally,
we all in the Instagram world, right? We all want recipes for instant success. I know it takes time, but do you have a recipe at all?
I would say instant success is establishing trust right away. If you can, build that trust, because people are always, when especially new relationships are made, people are kind of, the first thing they think is, do I relate to this person? Does this person understand me? Is there a trust I'm building? Am I providing the trust for the other person? Am I being credible to the other person in what I'm saying? The first things first is that how do we really build credibility of ourselves for ourselves and others? It's the most important thing.
Do you have a structure like 1, 2, 3, 4? If you do this, your relationship will flourish. Do you have something like that?
Well, I think the first things first is, again, we get back is like, how does one feel within relationship? If there's a feel good factor, the first recipe of success is, do I feel good with this person? Has this person, have I established trust with this person? Do I trust this person? Is this person making sense to me? Is this a short-term encounter, or is this a sustainable encounter? These are the kind of observations that we are focusing upon right from the get-go when we start a relationship. Like here we are today. I mean, we've never met, and what are we doing? We're establishing a platform for future. What am I saying to you, and what am I, hearing you out, and your audience and stuff. What is it that is making all of us tick at this point? Is laying the foundation together. So I guess those are the kind of basic ingredients, recipes of how do we build a foundation together which is sustainable? Because we're always looking for sustainability.
Firstly, I mean, I can only talk for my personal opinion because I'm not an expert in this field by no stretch of imagination. But isn't it like, firstly, if I have to create a relationship with someone, first question I'd be asking is, do I really know this person? Right? And then it could be moral codes, or it could be shared interests, or it could be, they say, people like themselves, right? So is it shared between two people? And then it will be where the trust. So only when I know these things, then I will be asking the question, can I really trust this person to begin the journey of building that relationship with that person, right? And I think going from there, for me personally, it is about showing up, isn't it? Walk the talk. Talk the talk is the easy bit. Can you walk the talk? Really important. It's yes, the initial bit is important, but I think then showing up throughout that, building that relationship process, isn't it? Where are we leading to? And also then making that effort, like may it be friendships, personal relationships, romantic relationship, professional relationships, how dependable that person is. Are they going to show up when you really need them? Are they going to be there? I think all these questions for me personally are very vital when you create any kind of relationship. And then, are they transparent? I have had personally as well professional relationships and personal relationships. You really like the person, you really like their values. But for me, like when I get to know that they're not that transparent, they might not tell the whole picture. and only you always don't only a part of the picture, what they think is going to take you in the right direction. And that is a put off, isn't it? And that kind of picture comes more to light with time. So do you think these things are also important to me?
Absolutely. I mean, I come from the Western world. I was born and brought up in the West, and I'm right now in the East. And it's a very different cultural disconnect or cultural nuances that we people have, because the East people are not that open. They're not that, and it's always, you're trying to uh, kind of, you're always trying to guess. People don't like to make guesses, people don't like to not know. So transparency is a very key to establishing the first trust. For example, and showing up and showing follow up and follow through constantly. Like, for example, you asked me to come at 7:30, 7:15, and I was not here, but there was a little bit of jittery. She couldn't make it, and you feel that sense of I'm sorry, my computer was kind of crashing, so that's why I kind of I was very keen on coming. If I did not have shown up at time, you would have lost credibility for me. It's like you have invited. So basically, yes, it is very, very important that we are transparent. And my challenge always, as a mentor, as being in the Eastern world right now, is that how do I make myself transparent to a person? How do I make myself, make them feel a sense of calmness, a sense of security, a sense of belonging when I'm talking to them? What is it that I have to do? What efforts do I have to make for them to come onto my side? Despite the fact, yes, there'll be like-minded people, but the real true challenge is in diversity, and we are diverse in our own way. And how do you, iron out the differences in diversity? Because diversity also, we're talking about diversity and inclusion all across the world. And what is diversity really is really relating to an understanding and growing another point of view. Because every point of view cannot be the same, because otherwise the world will be homogeneous. I mean, we will be all same people, and we're not going to grow. The earth is not going to go to the next level. So having said that, how do you, coming into a different kind of thought process here while you're talking to me, is that yes, like-minded, transparency, all that is great, but unfortunately, it's not the real world. The real world is that we are different people, and we are all very unique. And we have to have barometers to make it successful. And again, we come down to the basic thing, like you said, transparency, building trust is the start point of any association. And showing up, showing through, following up, following through, talking the talk, walking the walk. What I say, my word, they say, is a word is worth $1,000,000, because you can break it or make it with a relationship like that.
Thank you so much, Simmy. I know the Western culture and Eastern culture is very different. In my personal experience, people are transparent in different things in the East and West. That warmth and the transparency and the simplicity is very much there in the East, which is much more complex sometimes in the West. But whereas
Correct.
Coming to certain topics, so may it be mental illness or relationship breakdowns, or something more complex, even some health issues, we are not as transparent, and the Westerners are more. So I think it's different aspects, like you said, rightly said. It's knowing that nuances and accepting this is where they are coming from. And it's all about perspectives, isn't it? Because it is our perceptions. I think it is also important to check in to see if our perceptions are right, isn't it, Simmy?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that you've really hit a very important point there. And it's because the relationships break down because we don't really understand that, we all have different mindsets. I've come from a different culture. I've born in a different culture. I've brought up in a different culture. My education is different. My family background is different. So I have a certain perception of my own. The point is, how do I open my mind to another point of view and really be accepting of that? Acceptance is very important.
Being able to agree to disagree.
Absolutely. And doing it well.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Simmy. I think it beautifully brings me to this topic because relationship breakdowns, as we all know on this forum and people who are listening to us on Facebook, YouTube, relationship breakdowns are becoming more and more common. As an expert, why do you think a relationship breaks down? What is your opinion?
We are talking about I think we've covered a lot of ground here in terms of, why relationships break down. We talk about lack of transparency, lack of understanding nuances, understanding, everybody wants them. Like, for example, if you talk about a couple, the wife wants the husband to listen to her and understand that, this is the way I wanted, my way or the highway. And my husband's like, I wanted this way, my way or the highway, and there's no common ground, and they don't understand that the both are important. I'm talking of personal relationships, boyfriend, girlfriend, friends. It all applies to the same thing, that everybody's trying to, outrace the other person and be competitive of the other person. And really, when you're competing, I know that in school and in colleges and, in the sports world, we're always competing one another. But really, the true blue success is when you compare yourself to your past and your achievements and what you are today and what you were yesterday. And, instead of, enforcing my point of view, I've got to really, really, have that platform where people can express freely about, again, we come back to trust building, openness, we come back to, transparency, and all those factors. And if we feel that all those factors are met, then we have a success. If they are not met, then what happens is there are chances that it will break down. Something will break down. And then when we have that, that factor that we agree to disagree, we disagree to disagree rather, not agree to disagree. And there are kind of frictions and there are conflicts. And those have to be, understood and dealt with right when they occur at that point in time. So a relationship can break down at any given point in time, despite the fact that it is built solidly. It has a follow through. You're going through it. The point is to keep on, understanding, establishing, and having an open dialogue, constantly a heart-to-heart dialogue, and being able to provide that to another person. So if we do not do all those factors, yes, there are chances the relationships will break down.
Thank you, Simmy. I think in the recent past, I am no guru for relationship, and my life story definitely backs it up. So, but what I have learned
I'm with the program. Sorry.
In the recent past, what I have learned is three important things for me. One of my friend who tells this so beautifully, when you talked about competition, I was thinking about it. It's more collaboration than competition. We talk about this in business world or professionally, but we often forget it in the home environment. What she normally says is, provided both of them make 100% together, that is perfect recipe. Some things, one person is 60%, the other person is 40%, but in something else, the other person could be 70% and this person could be 30%. Provided the 100% is made, don't bother about going into nitty-gritty and see how this 100% is composed of. It really doesn't make any difference. Last year, we also had this talk about 5 love languages, and that was an eye-opener. I think that is so true when it comes to relationships, because I think most of the time, at least, not always perhaps, but mostly, we all want to have a successful relationships. We all go into relationship with thinking is going to last a lifetime, which particularly the personal one, even professional ones. We go into a firm thinking we are going to be there, we are going to be happy, we are going to be successful. And in relationship, we feel we are going to be happy, fulfilled, and happily ever after. But what we often forget is we might be showing all the love and care in the world, but that might not be their language, isn't it? So they might not feel appreciated. They might not feel loved or cared for because we are giving a different set of, in different set of parameters we're showing. And I think that we often forget to see. And this was eye-opener for me as well to understand. When I look back and see with my friendships, with my relationships, with my professional settings, I feel, yes, I thought I gave a lot. I did a lot. I was always there, but did I really show it in the modality? What really counted for the other person? It might not have, because that particular method might have meant anything for that other person, isn't it, Simmy? So that is two things. And I think, like you said, communication. Last week in this group of friends, I was talking about this because I really despise conflict with a vengeance. I really don't like conflict. However, what I have realized in the recent past, last few years, is by not liking the conflicts, I tend not to say anything. And particularly when it comes to personal relationships, I was one of these people. I would avoid conflict at any cost, meant really at any cost. So I wouldn't say anything. I would beg backwards. I will give, and I'll do everything. But then there will be a breaking point at some point. Then you can't blame the other person, actually, because I think conflict management is more of addressing, being assertive, and communicating to the other person how you feel and what is it doing for you without criticizing the other person or without putting down the other person. What is your take on it, Simmy?
It's really important that you said so many things in this one statement, one little 5-minute talk of what you just said. I'll just give you an example. I'll give you an experience that I'm just going through right now. And I'm going to be transparent about it because, that's the way to go. And, I'll just give you a case of what's going on. My father is 88 years old, and my brother, who's in the United States, came down very most recently. And we are talking about, the will, which is the most, and there were so many kind of nuanced, different points of view that was coming out when we were trying to establish a common ground on who gets what. So having said that, I was realizing when I was talking that the person, when the person, there was a lot of, instead of being assertive, the person was being aggressive. And I was finding myself defensive. And I'm finding myself running away from the situation and not dealing with it because it was not according to what I thought was, what should we call it, coming across to me as comfortable. I was not feeling comfortable. And a lot of situations, like you talked about right now in terms of conflict, we don't want to deal with conflict. Most people deal with conflict by running away. Flight or fear kind of a situation. We want to because we are not being heard at that point, we're not being understood at that point, and we feel like the person is attacking us instead of really being empathetic and understanding our point of view of where we are coming from. And so coming back to the same point is that we really, really, really succeed when we are empathetic, we're open, we express exactly what we feel, we are trustworthy, we talk the talk, we walk the walk, and we really, really, deal with each other, our differences in a mature manner, and by bringing out everything instead of really saying, I don't care about you, I don't understand what you're saying, I don't want to understand you. The point is laying out, and we are all susceptible to these kind of challenges and obstacles. We always have to constantly be there. And this case that I was talking about, our experience, we didn't come to a common ground because there were differences. So the point is we are going away. There's also another thing is to go away from the situation and then come back again and look at it objectively again, and mull over it, especially mull over it, sleep on it, and then come back to it. So conflict really arises when people are not being understood, people are not, what you may call it, on the same page, or are not being able to come on the same page. So that's why, when I'm mentoring and coaching, family conflicts and even business conflicts, I always find people want to enforce their point of view and not hear other people's point of view. And people really like talking versus listening. And unfortunately, we have 2 ears and one mouth. They say, you got to have the art, have the intent of listening, and people don't even want to stop hearing after some point, that if you disconnect on the first 2, 3, 5 seconds or 10 seconds, you disconnect completely. You don't want to hear it anymore. It's not going according to your style, your way, or your way of thinking, and it's my way or the highway fundamentally. And that's really not the way to establish a relationship. So yes, to answer your question, those conflicts are to be addressed and communicated and maturely addressed and put down. That's why they say, put it down on a piece of paper. We'll compare notes, or we exchange notes and stuff like that. Because the fact that my point of view may not be the perfect point of view, your point of view may not. How do we come to a common ground?
Yes, 6 and 9, right? Yes, but I think you raised a very important point there, isn't it, Simmy? You couldn't find the common ground. But when you do not find the common ground, don't you think so? We have to remove the matter from the person. You couldn't find the common ground in that particular aspect of that particular situation. That doesn't mean you're going to not find a common ground in everything else with that person. It doesn't mean that you cannot agree. I like the word agree to disagree, I must say, and that's okay. But overall, you do get on with this person, or even you decide to move away from that person for good. It doesn't mean that you or the other person is bad or good. It means you couldn't come to a common ground, like you said, in that particular aspect. Might be that was a deal breaker for you. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that. See, the common ground, coming to a common ground, is again your perception, your mindset. It's nothing to do with the other person, other people's behavior or other things. I mean, it's about you first. You're not coming to that. It's your responsibility to come to that common ground. So you've got, as I said right from the beginning, you've got to be proactive and say, look, this is not what I, instead of charging at a person. A lot of people, when they have conflicts, they charge at a person. And, one person is either aggressive or one person's running away or the other, or vice versa. So having said that, yes, to come to a common ground, you have to sit down and be patient, be open, and not only hear your own mind, but really close your mind to understand another mind.
Thank you so much, Simmy. It's a well-known practice in the marriages, and children are the only things which come with no manual. We learn it on the job as we go along, and it doesn't
build a plane while you fly.
It doesn't turn out always the way you want it to be. Coming back to it, do you think we don't ask the important questions before we dive into the relationships as well, Simmy? That is part of the problem. It took relationship breaks down. The importance of value. For example, if one person, the primary value is freedom, and for the other person is all about stability, it will be very hard to come to a common ground. We could, but I think it's important to address these things before you embarking on that. Even in the organizations usually have the values, or they should have business values. I think it's important to check in and see, is this something which will work together well for both or the organizations? What is your take on it, Sim?
Yes, I think we're saying the same thing. And I said that, yes, we've got to come to a common ground together, and we've got to open our mind in organization and person. And the point I'm trying to make is, again and again, it comes to the same thing where, it's not necessary that I feel in a certain way, the person has to feel the other way. We cannot enforce our point of view. We have to ensure that the integrity is maintained within ourselves and the other person. And the only way to do that is really being the kind of person you want to see, because you see that, like we talk about, it's our perception. So be the change you want to see. It's what Mahatma Gandhi says. If you see a thief in a person, there is some part of that prevalent in your own life, something in your perception, your experience, you've seen that. It's not necessarily that you're a thief, but if you are perceiving things, it's important to really, conflicts and coming to common grounds cannot be established if you put blinders on. You have to really, set apart and step back and really, allow the flavor to emerge, the realness to emerge, and really being authentic. Now they're talking about authentic leadership across the world. Be authentic, and all those factors to really open up the platform, so to speak.
Sure. I think the fact remains the blinders are always on. And I think, but for us, it's our responsibility to check in whether we are seeing through the blinders or seeing, beyond it, I think. Here. Is it possible to rebuild a strained relationship? And how can someone do it successfully?
Yes, a lot of relationships get severed on a day-to-day basis because there are conflicts between two people. Like, romantic relationships go out the door when there are conflicts every day. I mean, it's not necessary that we have to. I mean, we've got to accept the fact that you cannot. First thing I've come to accept the fact that you cannot change a person, and people are constantly in your face trying to change you, or you're going against them because you want to change them. And the truth is that you've got to accept the fact that you really can't change, or if you can articulate and not react, and the only thing you can do is respond differently to the person. And the only way to do that is to understand the intent and have a list. Like, as coaches and mentors, we say, listen with intent. What is the intent the person's talking about? Instead of listening to your own mindset, what is the intent? So breakdowns can happen and cannot happen only if they are completely, interfacing with each other, like computers. They're communicating because there's an interface. There is the commonality. At some point, there is some commonality you come. It's okay to be diverse, but it's agree to disagree. But at some point, you come to a commonality or a sort of a platform where it's a win-win for each other. Nobody should be, but very important for a relationship is to be a win-win situation for both concerned. Because if I feel shortchanged, I am going to have grudges. I am not going to come back to you if I'm I have grudges towards you, and you have created within the dialogue which is happening right there and then, or the situation being there and then, if we don't arrive at a common ground throughout when we are doing communication, laying the common ground, if we don't come to a common ground, then the point I'm trying to make is to again and again see where the common ground and nuances where we can arrive at a certain point. So we've got to constantly go at it till we get to the common point and understand, recognize that we have unconscious biases also, and accept responsibility of that we are perceiving it. So be the change you want to see. The point is, don't see that. Get over that. Grow, learn where are your limitations, where are your blinders, where are your blind spots, where are your patterns. The first thing is you have the patterns too, and taking responsibility of your life is more important. Then comes the other person. Does that make sense?
Yes, I forgot who said, look at what you are doing to the country rather than what the country is doing for you.
Absolutely.
I think it very much applies to relationships and professional workplaces as well.
Correct. And again, to come back, if you're proactive and you are taking the responsibility, there's very good chances that you're going to have a successful relationship, because the point is you have the intent, you have the wish, you have the desire, but the execution of it, the implementation of it may not be exactly the way you want or the other person wants. So again and again, yes, what am I doing for this relationship? What am I giving to this relationship? How important the success of this relationship is to me? Again, it boils down to the same thing about me. When you point one finger at another person, you've got to take responsibility that three are pointing back at you.
And also being able to communicate the non-negotiables very effectively without offending someone, isn't it, Simmy?
Exactly. And that is it's very challenging, and it can break down relationships when you don't, when you don't know how to assertively communicate and not compromise your situation, and not just, do it to seek approval from other people, because there are lots of things, one has in their thought process, or how they've been brought up, or the circumstances, or everything else that goes with the program, what makes you an individual. So, what is it that, where are my blinders? Where are my perceptions? Where are my closed biases? And really, really, understanding that. And again, as I said, again and again, comes down to me, myself, and I before anybody else.
Thanks, Simmy. Our experiences make us. So how do we emulate our relationships into our future? And what is one's barometer in relationships, really?
See, again, all relationships we have some kind of role models. Like, we have mentors, we've seen, people, personal relationships, we've seen professional relationships. We've seen between the lines, we've seen beyond and above what meets the eye. But we have some sort of mindsets as what we want, and what is acceptable and non-negotiable, and accepting of, and what is negotiable for us. For example, our value systems are non-negotiable. What we value about it, if we have to compromise that, it's a no-win situation. So again, like you said, communicating the non-negotiable and assertively putting it across is the win. To arrive at a win-win situation is a way to go. Is a way to go constantly, and keeping on is the way to go.
Thank you. And I think because we have to be aware that our experiences are creating us, and so is the other person's, and seeing it that way. So thank you, Simmy, for that. Is there an ideal optimal relationship? Particularly when we are young, we always have this picture of an ideal person, or ideal relationship. Watch the Bollywood movies and you will fall prey for it for sure. In that aspect, I also want to talk about emotional intelligence is usually addressed in the professional context. This, I think, has even a bigger role in personal relationships. So what is your take on it?
2 points. Emotionally intelligent person is a person who understands their emotions and really pays importance to another people's emotions. So, so it's very, to be emotionally intelligent is to be aware of our emotions. Some people are not even aware, that I feel this way, or that this person feels that way. It's just about how I want to how I want to make a statement. It's not about how do I want to come to a win-win situation for the both of us, or how do I want to really, come across and be heard, and have a successful sort of a liaison with each other. So yes, I mean, I think this question is very interesting, because I always kind of wonder, how important the world is focusing on emotional intelligence in the corporate world as well as in the personal world, because people have realized in the olden days, for example, the man was the king, and from the jungle also, the lion was the king, and the lion was inside, and all that stuff. And there was set different sort of roles everybody played, and in the olden times, under our parents and before that, so there was a role play which with a woman did and a man did, and that was acceptable. But everything has become a little fuzzy over the years in the 21st century, where roles are not defined. There's empowerment of women just going across the board. I'm not sure if men have grown as much as women have grown. I mean, I don't mean anything personal to anybody, but a lot of conflict and confusion has come in the modern world. We have more conveniences, and with the convenience come the devils also, because yes, we have the phone, but then how much are we talking to each other? You see a lot of people going to a restaurant and they have gone for a meal, but they're actually on a smartphone, talking to whatever they want to do, social media and stuff. So having said that, what is it that really is breaking down the barrier, breaking down relationships, and how to overcome those barriers. Firstly, I've learned one thing. It's called detox, digital detox. When I'm going out to a social gathering, I will not use the phone until unless I have to take a photograph, for example. So those are the kind of tips because that it shows that I am, really appreciating being in that company instead of my own company with my own friends. And why bother going there? So these are the things that are broken down in the modern age, and we have to continuously, keep on keeping on experimenting, as well as trying out new things and overcoming new challenges and new obstacles as we go further and further into this new next normal, which we are facing right now. And because remote is a way of life, and more and more technology is going to come out, more and more ease of use of technology is going to come out. However, there are going to be devils in the process, which we have to constantly overcome through the years to come.
Thank you so much. I think basically what you're saying is the virtual communication doesn't and cannot replace the in-person
Yes.
communications. Yes.
And at the same time, when there is a relation, when there is a virtual world, and then we're living in a hybrid world right now. So, I mean, with the pandemic, it went completely remote, and now we've learned to live with COVID, through the social distancing, taking care of ourselves, or whatever we're learning. The point is, because the fact that we are so used to the virtual world, when we go out, I mean, especially when we went out after the first year, I think a lot of people had challenges to really communicate with each other on the face-to-face with. So they needed this crutch basically back again. But I think it's coming. I mean, I think, if you keep on making the efforts and understanding, learning, unlearning, and learning again, you are going to win.
Thank you so much. I think even in virtual world, it is really important to pay that attention and not be distracted with something else, because that's the respect you pay to the other person.
Absolutely. I'm here in the present. I'm with you in the present. And that is making yourself, your team, the audience feel important, because I'm here in the present. I'm not sitting here and you're doing a million other things while I'm talking to you, which means that your show, this present is most important for us, the situation, the timing, and of course, Valentine's Day.
So
we go into tomorrow.
Of course. Thank you so much, Simmy. You touched upon the Valentine's Day in the perfect timing. So what are your takeaway home tips for the audience so that they can celebrate many, many more Valentine's Days happily?
First things first, write down everything that is important to you, from your value systems, from what is it that you expect of a relationship, because there's always expectation. Write down everything that the goal, the objective of this relationship, and really redo your homework before you sit there and come out there to have that liaison with the person. That's the first tip. That is being aware of yourself, being aware of your emotions, being aware of your boundaries, being aware of your negotiables or non-negotiables, because people don't know that until they're thrown in the deep end and they're negotiating at that point, which can be which can be a factor. But the point is to be aware and constantly know about yourself and take I've done all the, I've had relationships break down like everybody else. I've gone and sought help. I've read the books, where is it? Because I know ultimately it's me. I have to do something about myself. If the relationship has broken down, it's not the other person's fault. I did not do my best to make it to succeed. So my first tip is to understand. And then the second thing is to understand where the other person is coming from. To really ask the right questions. What is acceptable of the other person? It's not only my point of view, it's the other point of view also. That's very important. So then we come to, writing the line items of what is, I'm doing it like a business setting, but, the line items in your mind, the line items in their mind, and we exchange notes. And if the notes don't match, then you go back and do your homework and come back again. The point is, it's effort, effort, effort. There's no compromise to effort to make a relationship work. One, it's not like, the second thing is, people say, oh, I'm married right now, my relationship is going to be perfect. My life is going to be perfect. It's not like that. You got to work at it, work at it. There's nothing but work. So remember, it's not an easy ride. It has, and that work is really something which is empowering you and transforming you as a person and making you grow and learn and learn again of new things, which is a part of life, and to grow. So that's the second thing. The third thing is transparency. We talked about and stressed upon transparency is very important to have the other person, have that person's trust in you to be transparent. Because I feel I want to be transparent, but I feel the other person is not trustworthy for me to be transparent of. So establishing that ground that I can, having that, that mindset, that sort of a personality where people have confidence in you, establishing, that trust in you. The third is the transparency and trust, I would say. The fourth is understanding that diversity is beautiful. Diversity is a way to go in life. And today, more and more, there is more diversity than ever was before. It's not man, woman. It's not, it's not, and diversity is not only gender, it's preference of sex, acceptability of different kinds of, special needs person. Diversity is across the board, and really, really applauding our differences versus just celebrating our like-mindedness and similarity. So the third is really applauding the differences. Okay. The fourth is being open to change, being open to open to growth, open to studying, open to anything that makes you a better person and makes you more aware of, emotionally aware of various points of view. And fifth is, there is no right way. There is no correct way. It's basically trial and error all throughout your life. And if it doesn't work, doesn't mean it's never going to work. It is going to work. You just have to go at it. I think that's what the 5 tips I would, what I have learned in my own experiences.
Thank you so much, Simmy. I think it's a lifelong learning, doesn't only apply to your professional lives. So that's the crux of it, right? And effort is, there are no shortcuts to anything in life, and including the relationships.
The shortest cut is the longest route.
I like that. That's so true. Very true. So thank you so much, Simmy. We have been enlightened about how to build relationships and sustain them a lot. For people who are on the Zoom, please hold on, because its show is not over. You will be given a chance to ask the questions to the speakers, right? Following tradition, I'm going to announce the next week's speaker. Next week, it will be what is the real diversity question with Dr. Yvonne Thompson, who is a CBE and founder of WinTrade Global Network, speaker and author. For those who do not live in the UK, CBE is an honor awarded by the Queen. And I know Yvonne for a long time, and she's involved in many organizations. Particularly, she's passionate about women empowerment as well. And diversity and inclusion is another thing she's really passionate about. So I'm really, really looking forward to speaking on this show. For now, over to Raj Madhavan to give the vote of thanks.
Dr. Simmy Kataria, this is a very powerful presentation, especially at the time that we are having Valentine's Day tomorrow. So this is an amazing presentation on building relationships. I'm Raj Madhavan, coming from Canada. Today, on behalf of Meet Menaca Celebrating Team, I have the honor and privilege in presenting the vote of thanks to Dr. Simmy Kataria, who is a worldwide ambassador on relationship issues. So it is important for us to connect with others to lead a healthy and happy life. It's also important to form and maintain relationships. Dr. Kataria was very beautifully presented her talk covering these aspects. On behalf of Meet Menaca team, my sincere thanks to Dr. Kataria for taking your time coming to our show and presenting an amazing talk on building relationships. My next thanks goes to all the viewers signing through Facebook and Zoom to watch Meet Menaca celebrating talk shows. Many of you are repeated viewers coming on every week, week after week. You all are the reason for our success. Thank you all. Thank you again, Dr. Kataria. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Raj. And once again, thank you so much, Simmy. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. For people who are listening to us on Facebook, as ever, a huge thank you for all of you for supporting us. And please support us and allow us to grow, to make a bigger impact by subscribing to a channel on YouTube. It's called Meet Menaca. We will see you next week, same time, same place, on our episode 78, What is the Real Diversity Question, with Dr. Yvonne Thompson. Until we see you next week, stay safe, be healthy, and keep smiling.